morning, noon, evening or night, depending when you're watching this video. My name is Legend and welcome back to World of Tanks and the magnificent Maneuvers episode. And today we are watching a couple of replays of me playing a bit differently from the rest of my team. Most of the times in Maneuvers or Clanbattles Strongholds as a whole, you want to move as a team, act like a team, because therefore you can have the quickest impact on the game with focus fire, getting rid of the enemy team faster and more efficiently. However, sometimes I do have a bit of my own thoughts and strategy. I do keep in mind that, well, it's still a team-based game, but there are certain scenarios where I pick a different route because of my expertise with the game, thinking that such tactics are more suitable for certain scenarios. So in this battle on Pilsen, we are flanking around with no tanks spotted, which gives us the surprise on the defending enemies in the middle of the map. Getting a nice initial shot in on the move, we quickly orientate ourselves towards the gap circle, as the other half of the enemy team is trying to flank around. And this is why I take my own route, holding off the sub-flank and providing pressure on the enemy mediums who have pushed too far into this particular flank. During which I also switch to fire towards the target who is attacking my teammate, who is now able to push the mediums back into the open. Maybe a bit more communication on kill confirmation had meant that my teammate could have saved his shot for the object 140, who eventually killed him. Now I was a bit turned around to kill the 140 and receive quite a hefty shot from the 705. Now moving back towards the cap circle, having a slightly better visibility to the 60 TP from this angle, so of course I hold this location for a little bit to take a shot at him. And after we kill DBV, it is pretty much game from here. But for some reason I'm the only one going after the team in 10E4. But I can take a shot from him and have some outflanking, outmaneuvering possibilities, using the solid cover or the piles of rubble in order to make it harder for him to fire back. And eventually I can finish him off due to his cupola weak spot, to essentially win this 1v1 against an opponent with 500 more hit points than me, which was a very satisfying brawl to come out of on top. So in this flow of battle, going a bit of my own way wasn't really the commonly used tactic. It will only apply when the flanks or sub-flanks are close enough that I can still support my team quickly enough when there is a request for me to do that. It really wasn't going my own path entirely, instead positioning at one of the many corridors where we could expect encounters. And with still such close proximities to other teammates covering other corridors, I could quickly switch my priority to targets threatening my teammates the most. As for the enemy team, they were most definitely a bit in a disadvantage, being split up into that much, while we still had most of our tanks at a bit of a core defensive position, with several teammates covering said position from different flanks. It was a little bit a case of Call of Duty Zombies, digging ourselves in and let the enemy try to come at us. Moving on towards the other replay that I got for you in this video, it is on Prokhorovka, one if not the most imbalanced map for Clanbattles. And the main reason is that our side in the north has a far better positioning on the hill on the zero line. So of course I'm taking this position on the map, which is the main reason why it isn't really balanced. From here there are a lot of angles to defend the base from relative safety, and I can even spot the other side of the hill just by peeking, which can then be pressured by my team down below near the cap circle. So it is quite some standard procedures, just fighting on Prokhorovka, taking the very advantageous position. And although I call the main theme individual insight, I'm also not alone, and with help of Maveuvers Killer, we spot further up the hill, lighting up even more opponents. Now I do notice that all enemies up here are aiming down at my clan members below, so I can actually overextend, overexpose and get a flanking shot off without getting fired back at. And even though the 907 is now aiming his attention to me, his friends up there are not. So I rush in and I am able to ram him to death. Then continue further towards the enemy 260, which all accumulated into distracting the enemy so much that there is no more pressure from them towards my teammates down below. They already lost quite a bit of health due to the advantageous position on the hill, so distracting them was quite helpful and allowed my team to push into the last remaining few enemies near the cap circle. However, doing that has created a bit of a pickle for me, as it is a 2 versus 1, which this time I don't survive. But with my sacrifice, the win gets secured. Although it already was kind of secured. Because in this situation, my timing to push in didn't really matter that much, since I bounced the 260 from behind when I rushed in. The amount of shots back and forward would have concluded to the same result, as if I would kept my distance. But it really shines through how important these distractions can be when it, well, does matter more. Maybe the 260 and 907 could have relocated by driving off the hill, thinking that the distance could permit that. But by really getting into their faces, I forced them to brawl right there and then. In the end, I just basically made it a tiny bit easier and allowed my team to finish off the last few enemies just a smidget quicker than if I would have left them just going their way up there on the hill. So some quick commentaries on some quick replays, with the main conclusion being, well, there wasn't really a lot of individual insight. I think my previous magnificent maneuvers did contain even more individual insight, but it was noticeable that I, well, kind of did my own thing most of the time during these battles. But the most important thing is to always have somebody close by, so either you can support them or they can support you. Which is, of course, the core of all clan battle tactics, of course. But just keep in mind that if some opportunities arise, you can have some individual insight and do a certain tactic or maneuver by yourself without risking too much, of course. And with that, that's the end of this video. Hope you learned something from these replays, and I will see you next time. Laters!